This place is well over 200 feet long and varies from about 20 feet to 40 feet in width, with a ceiling height of 25 feet to over 50. There are many shelves and ledges along the walls, while the roof is icicled with stalactites with a scattering of stalagmites beneath. As in most of these caverns, you note that there are a number of fungi growing here, with many small creatures feeding on them, as well as each other. Careful examination detects many bones scattered about, helping to feed the foul growth of the dark fungi. This chamber is the home of Lud the Behir. The enormous 40-foot-long serpentine monster hides on a ledge near the entrance to its lair. It was located in the third room of 1982's Gary Gygax's adventure, The Lost Caverns of Tsojcanth, First Edition Advanced Dungeons & Dragons. In fact, a picture of this massive beast graced the cover, painted by the great Errol Otis. Much like the deadly Bodok, who was found in the second room, both of these creatures were brand new to the game, and adventurers were quickly learning just how deadly this adventure was going to be. The text tells us that compared to others of its kind, Lud is a very smart fellow. The monster had lived here for a very long time and slowly gained knowledge and wisdom, even learning some words and phrases from past victims, enough to communicate with adventurers should the need arise. In this case, to direct intruders elsewhere if it believes it was in a losing fight, informing them of a vast treasure to the west in an effort to save itself. Yes, today we're talking about the Behir, even the real-world lore, because yes, it is based on a real-world myth, and I just love this lightning bolt-breathing serpentine creature. It can crush you, it can swallow you whole, it can breathe lightning bolts, and it can rend you to pieces with its deadly claws. As described in its first appearance, the Behir is a snake-like reptilian monster with a dozen short muscular legs and a head like a crocodile. Its banded scales range from ultramarine blue on its back to pale blue on its belly. It can move with considerable quickness and is a skilled climber. It prefers to move like a snake by folding its legs close to its body and slithering along. We eventually learn later in the monster's lore that it prefers to slither and typically only uses its legs for climbing or combat-related actions like attacking or feeding. Real-world lore. Like so many of the earliest monsters for Dungeons & Dragons, Gary Gygax likely based the Behir on a creature from folklore, in this case, Scottish folklore, from a monster called the Behir. The Behir is described as the largest and most deadly kind of serpent, or as a dragon, but without certain typical draconic features such as wings or fiery breath. They were said to live in mountainous caves and valleys. In the 1908 Celtic Review, renowned folklorist E.C. Watson described the Behir as a venomous and destructive creature. Watson said the basis of the legends were likely formed from the deadly characteristics of both lightning and serpents. Among my vast collection of thousands of D&D miniatures dating back to 1980, I had never found a Behir. Maybe one existed, I never found it. But then in 2004, Wizards of the Coast released the Giants of Legends Behir miniature. But more recently, the Behir by Nolzl's Marvelous Miniatures did a much better job of bringing this beast to life. So let's discuss the history of these and how you can use them in your games. As always, I'm your host Atten here at We Love TTRPGs, and if this is your first time here, be sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell so you don't miss our future uploads. The Lost Caverns of Tsojcanth introduced us to so many new monsters that are incredibly deadly, and the Behir is one of the best. The monster reappeared in 1983's Monster Manual 2 for First Edition Advanced Dungeons & Dragons. Here, the text is mostly reprinted from its Lost Caverns appearance. In both the versions, the creature is neutral evil with low intelligence, and an encounter with this beast threatens not just one to appear, but possibly two. It doesn't specify, but perhaps this could have been a mated pair. In April of 1990, from Dragon Magazine issue number 156, we are given our first Ecology of the Behir article. A second article covering the Behir appears for 3rd edition, which I will discuss in a bit. But in this issue, labeled An Excerpt from the Tome Creatures of the Wilderlands by the sage and explorer Radamust, we are told that enormous shed scales have been found that indicate some ancient specimens reached up to 60 feet in length. We also learn there are 3 different species of Behir: the typical lightning Behir, as well as the incredibly rare desert Behir and jungle Behir. The article tells us desert Behirs are red in color and breathe fire, while jungle Behir are green and breathe a jet of acid. The article explains that Behir are active during the day, though not exclusively, and they sleep during the moonlight hours. They prey on all creatures smaller than them, particularly medium and larger mammals such as boars, though they also attack humans, ogres, and elves. Being reptilian in nature, Behir hibernate during the winter and spend much of their time fattening up before then. In fact, it says that because of their reptilian nature, Behir become extremely sluggish when temperatures fall below the freezing point. Thus, cold-producing spells such as Cone of Cold and Ice Storm reduce the Behir's movement by half for 2 to 8 rounds. If low temperatures can somehow be maintained, the Behir will go nearly dormant, seeking only to defend itself from attacks and escape the cold by whatever means possible. Then we get a really fleshed out and updated Behir with 2nd edition AD&D's Monsters Compendium Volume 1. This was the loose leaf binder entries by TSR. Here it says they are carnivores, with a low intelligence score of between 5 to 7, and they have a 15 champion morale, which in AD&D game terms means they are monsters that were not likely to retreat, and would often fight to the death. As in the previous edition, it says the Behir will first bite its prey, then loop its serpentine body around its victim and squeeze. If it captures a victim in this way, the following round, it will get 6 claw attacks. What's really great about this update is it gave us information about the Behir's habitat, society, and ecology. We learn here that the Behir is a solitary creature, meeting others of its kind only to mate, proving our earlier assumptions correct about meeting 2 of them at once. It says the mated pair will eventually produce a clutch of 1 to 4 eggs, and the female will guard the eggs for 8 months, while the male hunts for food. After the eggs hatch, they are immediately turned away into the wild to fend for themselves, and the mated pair separate. Newly hatched Behir are roughly 2 feet long and grow at a rate of 8 feet per year until fully mature. We are also told that newly hatched Behir do not have 12 legs until becoming adults. They begin life with 6 to 8 and grow more legs as they mature. It tells us that Behir dominate a territory of about 400 square miles and often live high up on a cliff face in a cave. We are told Behir are never friendly with dragonkind and will never be found living in the same geographical area as any type of dragon. If a dragon enters the Behir's territory, it will do everything in its power to drive the dragon away, and should it fail to succeed, the Behir will move away to find a new home. For ecology, we learn that the horns of a Behir are useful for creating ink to inscribe a lightning bolt spell, and their claws used to create the ink for a cleric's neutralized poison spell. The heart of a Behir would be used to create ink for a protection from poison spell. And finally, the scales of a Behir are worth up to 500 gold pieces to an armorer who could create a highly ornate set of scale mail armor. Again, for 2nd edition AD&D, we get a newly updated Behir with a beautiful new color illustration in 1993's Monstrous Compendium, as TSR returned to the book format. The game statistics were basically the same as the previous entry. Then with the release of 3rd edition D&D, the Behir appears much the same as earlier, only with modified stats for that edition of the game. Looking over the entry, I did not find much different from the creature's tactics or lore, though it does say its preferred environment is warm hills, and its alignment is now listed as neutral. In 2003, a source book for the Forgotten Realms called The Shining South, it tells us of a much smaller variant Behir. From July of 2005, there appears the 2nd Ecology of the Behir essay in Dragon Magazine. This is a rather detailed entry, well worth your time, and a lot of useful tips and flavor text. The article offers some great combat tips, suggesting the Behir might create cramped tunnels from which to hide or conceal its body for ambush attacks. Hiding among the dark cliffs or high cavern ceilings, the 40-foot-long creature will strike quickly from behind cover to gobble up single opponents stumbling into its territory. This article reinforces the ambush style of attacking favored by Behirs. It even suggests a Behir might possess a few levels in Sorcerer or Barbarian, if you really want to challenge your players with a unique variation of this beast. A Barbarian Behir with a rage and enhanced speed, or a Sorcerer Behir specializing in lightning-based attacks is really epic. The next time we see a Behir is in that game we are supposed to call 4th edition D&D, in their Monster Manual 2. In this book, we are told they are known for their fearsome lightning-spitting attack. Behir are clever and voracious predators, that are deadly hunters from the time they are hatched. Behir are capable of running down prey and swallowing it whole. A quick-witted opponent may try to reason with or bribe a Behir before becoming its next meal. This gives us 3 different stat blocks for Behir and tells us a Behir begins combat by attacking a weak-looking target with Devour, even if that means provoking opportunity attacks when moving past other foes. We are also told Behir are unaligned and speak both common and draconic languages. They also talk about Behir being used as steeds for such creatures as evil storm giants, which I really like. Did you hear that? I gave something from 4th edition a compliment. Now, appearing in 5th edition D&D's Monster Manual, this is really a terrifying beast. With a 50-foot land speed in slither mode and a 40-foot climb speed, you really just aren't going to get away from this monster easily. It's now a CR 11 creature with an AC of 17, a 23 strength, a +6 to perception checks, a +7 to stealth. It has multi-attack bite and constrict with a +10 to hit. The bite has a 10-foot reach and the constrict has a range of 5 feet with a DC 16 grapple. The swallow attack of a Behir is gruesome. Unlike earlier editions that required a natural 20 to be swallowed, this time you only need to be constricted and then hit by a bite attack. At this time, the grapple ends, but you are now in the creature's stomach. While swallowed, the victim is blinded and restrained, has total cover against attacks and other effects outside the Behir, and it takes 6d6 acid damage at the start of each of the Behir's turns. The only way to get free on your own is by inflicting more than 30 damage on a single turn, forcing the Behir to succeed on a DC 14 con save or regurgitate you. And remember this, you'll be limited by the types of attacks you can use while swallowed. You aren't going to be swinging any large weapons in there, and you better make your concentration check if you try to cast a spell. It's for these reasons a Behir will typically wait to attack from a hidden position and use surprise to pluck off one of the more lightly armored travelers at the rear of a party before unleashing a bolt of lightning on the entire group. This entry says they speak Draconic, but I would change this back to bits of Common that it learned from past victims and possibly the language of giants. These creatures do have low intelligence and hate dragons. There's just no reason to think it would ever get the opportunity to learn the language of its much more intelligent hated enemy. So how about some Game Master advice? The Behir's intelligence is low, so don't expect it to join your book club, but it is a hunter with a 14 wisdom and an extremely fast slithering speed. It will use terrain to its advantage and use rocks for cover before it ambushes the adventurers. If it's an older Behir with some experience hunting, it will recognize humanoids with shiny outer shells as more dangerous than others, and it may wait to pick off any unarmored travelers in the rear, hoping to snatch up its meal and retreat back into the rocks. I think the 5th edition version of the Behir is really the best. It retained Gygax's original vision for the monster and beefed it up, which frankly is a little off-brand for 5th edition, and I really like it. These monsters don't value treasure, but may have something undigested in their stomach. One of the best rewards for killing a Behir might be its scales. If you allow it, it would be reasonable for an adult Behir to produce enough scales to create a full set of scale mail for a medium-sized adventurer that gives advantage on saves versus lightning. And that's before you had it enchanted with an armor bonus, perhaps giving a further modifier to the saving throw. Of course, this wouldn't be cheap. They'd have to find a skilled armorer, and someone of that capability might already be employed by a local lord, which could then result in the adventurers doing a favor for the lord in exchange for the armorer's services. And did you encounter a Behir in its lair? In this case, was it a female tending to the eggs? Those eggs could be worth a lot, but good luck getting them back to town in one piece. Sure would be a shame if one of them hatched on the way home. And what happens when the much larger, more skilled hunting Behir returns to find the party skinning its mate? And how about this idea? The players defeat a Behir. If the players cast Detect Magic on the Behir or take some measures to locate the item, they find a gem of acid resistance in the Behir's stomach. How it got there is up to you, but those players are going to need that item for an upcoming encounter with some nasty acid monster in the future, so hopefully they were thorough in their search. I've even considered a lich storing his phylactery in a gem of acid resistance, which he then fed to an ancient 60-foot-long Behir for safekeeping. The Behir is one of D&D's most exciting monsters that is sure to electrify your game sessions. Have you fought one before? Or as a DM, have you used one against your players? I'd really like to hear about your experiences. And as always, I'm your host, Atten, here at We Love TTRPGs, and I appreciate your support so much by liking this video and telling me in the comments what you think about this creature. And if this is your first time here, be sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell so you don't miss our future uploads. Thank you so much for watching.